Is that better? All right. Do we have any public comment? I don't think so. Hearing none, we're going to move on to minutes. Everybody should have the minutes in their packet. Do we have a motion to approve or any amendments?
I will motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Claims docket.
I added a payment to the claims docket to hire electric because I didn't get the bill until, or the invoice from the engineering department until yesterday. But everything else is the same.
I see the bollards. I mean, I don't know if anybody's seen the bollards. They look nice. So it's better than the old electrical outlets that are sitting on the tree, right in the next to the tree box. But
Right, they
those
took down
look
all the
sharp.
trees and took down the electrical outlets, removed those. And the tree grates are gone.
Yep.
And that's all been concreted in. And the bollards have got an electrical outlet on them, so that way they could remove those electrical boxes that everybody would kick over. And also makes it easier because there's a circuit breaker in every bollard. So if there's an issue, they could, I'm assuming someone in engineering knows where the breaker is in the bollard and can
Yeah.
flip it if it trips off.
So take a look. They're pretty sharp if you get down the Stitch area on Monroe Street. So, but I just wanted to note that. I noticed it the other day when I was walking down there. So
It looks really good at night too, because they're all lit, and then the lights that hang over Monroe are lit.
Yep. All right, that was the only thing I had comments on. I'll entertain a motion for approval for the claim doc.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, claim docket is approved. We move on. Financial statements, monthly financial statements. And I guess as part of the financial statements, anything unencumbered funds, look like you paid off Lincoln Walk and other things that are on there,
Right.
so. Anything else that we need to address?
No, everything is pretty much usual. I think we've got a couple months' worth of funding for the dumpsters. That would be for September and October.
Because it usually
what-
closes it down in October, right? Yep.
Yeah. With the action that was taken at last month's meeting regarding hiring or providing funding for a part-time person in code enforcement, in the financial statement, I added a line item for that person's position of $10,000. Then there was still $10,000 remaining for a monitor for the dumpster at the street department. They weren't gonna be using that, so I moved that into the dumpster line item, so that gave an extra $10,000 for the dumpsters. And that was all made a motion and seconded at last month's meeting. So that was like a little bit of shifting on the financial statements.
And that's all reflected, so that's good there. So, any other questions on the financials? If not, a motion to approve those?
I will motion to approve financials.
Anybody want to pipe up for a second?
I'll second.
There we go. Thanks, Bill. Motion a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The financials are approved. Old business, update on digitizing and logo.
I don't have any information, again, because it's just one of those things that gets thrown to the side. But I do stay in contact with the salespeople for both the companies, keeping them advised that we're still interested in digitizing and also in scanning the corporate records and keeping those, keeping the hard copies of those, and then scanning everything else and shredding everything else.
So I thought we were, I could be mistaken, but we said just, we approved a budget. When you say you're keeping in touch with them, can we
They
just,
call me, or I call them just to update them and let them know what the status,
are
that
they di-
Iron Mountain and then the group out of Chesterton.
so they are digitizing them?
No, not yet.
Okay, but the reason why they're not coming, I thought we were gonna just have them just do it, right, to make it easy?
No.
What's the,
I thought we had talked about having them do it.
yeah, I thought, like a couple months ago, I thought we.
Which person, what company?
Well, at the time we talked about it, I think this was back when we were at the library for that meeting, we had kind of talked about Iron Mountain might be questionable, and I thought we were gonna, I thought maybe you were getting quotes from the other one. I don't,
I need to figure out capacity or volume.
We just said we were gonna pick the 5 years, and you were just gonna do them all. We were just gonna get a quote, because it would have been half the price,
Okay.
is what we discussed at the meeting. I think it was like,
I'm sorry, I
go.
misunderstood what was discussed.
yeah, I don't know if it's in the minutes, but I'm pretty sure that it was basically, actually, I think Bert might have suggested it, just take whatever the requirement was, that I think you talked to Attorney Otis and said, hey, so we're just gonna go back 5 years, digitize it all, and it still would have been under the budget that we originally approved, if I remember right.
Okay, what about shredding everything older than 5 years? Or what do you want to do with those records?
Well, if there's nothing that we need, they should be shredded, because we wanted to make sure we were compliant to any type of like, document coverage, retention requirements, and it didn't seem like there was any, because most of that stuff is just old grants. So we either have it on file or have it electronically, so, I think we talked about you just going through some of those older than that, just saying, hey, if there's anything of importance, if not, shred it.
Okay, well, the only thing I would recommend keeping that's older than 5 years are the original corporation files,
And that would be
the
fine.
hard copies of those.
Yeah, and all that stuff, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, would be at the state level anyways. It's gonna be scanned and imaged. Anything that we've done incorporating the organization, those kind of things are gonna be held downstate as well. So we'll be protected from that standpoint.
Okay.
So yeah, let's just move it along, and we'll go from there, so. I think we're good. I think we discussed it, that might be, no, I think we discussed it, that we didn't need to approve, because we approved the budget. We figured by digitizing half of them for 5 years is gonna be less, so let's just, hopefully, by
Okay.
next month, we can have them started on the process. The logo,
I met with Jessica last week, Jessica Spoljaric, who's the communications director for the city, about developing a new logo. And her and Lindsay are looking forward to designing something that Jessica felt they could do it in-house and save us some money instead of going out to a company and doing it, and they're going to put together 2 proposals, and we'll have the board look at them and then decide what they want to do.
Did they give a time frame? Kind of when we could
Um,
expect that?
To be done at the next board meeting, the October board meeting. One reason is we have banners for the downtown Christmas activities, the tree lighting at Plaza 618. And I haven't done it yet, but I need to get Craig Phillips to complete a community enhancement grant application for $500 for the city to help buy the Christmas tree. And then we put logos of the companies that donate money on a banner, and it will be far easier and better to see a logo that transfers from something that's spread very long to something that's a little more intact.
Yeah, I did talk to Lindsay. They're going to make color, and it'll sort of coordinate with the branding that the city has, which will
Yeah.
make it more uniform. Our logo was antiquated. So let's just make sure that we follow up with them, so we've got a good update on when that's going to happen next month, so it's at least finalized, or at least we know where we're at. All right, new business. Discussion and action on business grant for Studio 714 at 714 Lincoln Way.
They just want an awning, money for a new awning. And the grant application was included in the board packet that was emailed to you.
And I didn't print the whole, what was the total amount again?
Hang on. They're asking for $1,974.50. A total project amount is $3,949.
And there wasn't, I don't think there was 3 quotes on that, if I remember right, but there's not many awning companies.
Let me see. He's got a grant from BH Awning out of Benton Harbor for $3,230. One from Custom Awning of South Bend for $5,783. And one from Merrillville Awning that's for $3,949. And his preference is Merrillville Awning because they're going to take down the old frame and put up a new frame, whereas the Benton Harbor Awning is not doing that.
So they're, so everything else, you're saying they're compliant with the grant
Yes.
process? So they do have 3 quotes. I must not have seen the last one, but yeah, okay. So
Those are some new groups that have not done awnings previously, which I think is really good.
Merrillville Awning has done them as part of the facade grants. When the awning company in Michigan City went out of business, everybody switched to Merrillville Awning, but Darren has found 2 other companies to give them quotes.
Yeah, I think it's good for us because it'll
Yeah.
maybe broaden the number of companies that we can get quotes from on this type of work in the future.
Right, there are no awning companies within LaPorte County.
And that's fine, but at least you'll have reference and can forward
Right.
them to people that are required, so they can at least get 3 quotes to comply with the grant process, so. All right, so any questions on the grant? If not, we'll look for a action on approval.
Everything appears to be in order. Motion to approve.
I second.
Motion a second. Any further discussion?
Just
Who
wanted.
seconded?
I did, Marion. I just want to say, I think that the work looks like their work that they're doing on that building, specifically the inside, it looks great, and appreciate their investment in the downtown.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is a discussion action on 2026, 2027 Farm and Forage proposal. Normally, I asked Marianne to put this in the packet. Normally, we would approve this proposal from the Farm and Foraged collective who does the Farm and Foraged, but they need to get planning and process prior to our budget session in November. And due to the fact that we have funds available, I mean, I feel comfortable recommending approval of the contract so they can continue. They've had a successful farm and forage, I say farmer's market, but you know what I'm talking about, farm and forage on Sundays. The only thing that I would add is there's some addendums. If you looked at the contract at all, there's some addendums in terms of, I call them porta potties. I don't know what the professionally correct word is, but basically the restrooms that are provided at that location, as well as dumpster facilities. So what I'm recommending is just knowing, I happen to be involved in this process over the last couple of years. It got to the point of frustration, but basically there was not really clarity in terms of who was going to be responsible for providing those restroom facilities at the location, and also removal of trash. That has been specifically laid out into this contract, into this proposal. I'm requesting that we add, and I don't have the number, Marion, you have to look at it, but the number for the specific dumpsters, or not the trash removal, that we approve that in the budget. So what she's proposed is $15,000 cost if we agree to a 2-year contract. And then there's an additional cost of, I think it's like $800 or $900, if you can get the exact amount. I would, if we are comfortable in approving that amount as well. The restaurant, or not the restaurant, restroom facilities are going to be another request that we'll bring to the budget session, because what we would like to do, and Marianne is reaching out to a couple companies that provide those services, and then we'll have quotes on providing those for the full term of the farmer's market. So full term of Farm and Forage being there, I think it's from May to October. And it will also sort of coincide and work with the Stitch events. There's 3 or 4 throughout the summer, so it'll cover sort of both of those. That's where some of the scheduling conflict and some of the costs back and forth, and we were trying to get sponsors for those. And I'm going to bring it to the board to recommend approval to include that as well. We would just pay that direct, since the city does the events downtown, and that'll be up for you to decide come budget. But right now, I'm asking long-winded explanation, but I'm asking for your approval for the proposal and for the dumpsters, which, did you get that number?
It's $850 for the dumpster for the season. And then if we do a 2-year contract, it's $15,000 per season, which I believe is what we're paying now.
Yes.
Otherwise, if we do a 1-year contract, it's $17,500.
So we would be approving a 2-year contract, and I'm assuming it'd be double that I'm sure they'll reach out for the cost of the dumpsters next season, but we're approving $15,000 for a 2-year contract and the dumpster removal for this year.
I'll motion to approve the 2-year contract plus the additional funds for the dumpsters, with the acknowledgement that we'll talk about restrooms this fall.
Thank you. Second, any second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Now, real quick though, as far as those, if we do the 2-year, are the two payments, the $30,000 due up front, or is it spread out over each year?
It's spread out over each
Okay.
year.
So we're just agreeing to the 2-year and then, okay,
Right.
gotcha.
Yeah. She laid out the payment terms in the contract, but they'd just like to get a payment
Okay.
so they can start planning for next season early before the end of the year. Thank you. I'll quit talking. All right, so,
I got a question
okay,
before you vote.
okay.
The Civic Center also requisitions porta pots for the Stitch or the Friday night events. Would you, if the UEA is going to cover that cost directly, when I'm talking to these sanitation companies, would you want to roll the porta pot for the Stitch as well as the porta pot for Farmed and Forge into one
So I know where you're going
instead of
with it.
having two separate ones?
I reached out, after our discussion for the boards, I reached out to Mark Schreiber with the Park Department, who handles that side of it. He said you're going to find out when you get quotes for the restroom facilities out there, the portable facilities, that you're going to find it's going to be more efficient and less expensive to just leave it out there rather than having them come and pick it up and then
Right.
bring it back out, come and pick it up. So my thoughts are, we're going to probably pay for the rental for Farm and Forge. It's going to cover those events as well, because it's going to be during that same exact time frame. So that's,
Yeah, they can drop them
Yeah.
off like on a Thursday,
well, they're going to drop them off and they're just going to stay out there.
all season long.
Yeah, is the guess. Now, you're gonna call and get quotes on that, but that, he said, he already gave me a couple companies and said that he's checked into this, so the answer you're probably gonna get, but having us handle it would be beneficial, for sure.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
If you are thinking that you're going to put some portable toilets down there. If you're thinking you're going to put some portable toilets down there, you're going to have to get a lock on them.
Right.
Unless there's an event. We had some down at the Hyler building, and they were full every couple days.
Yeah, we'll have to figure something out from that.
Well, and
standpoint.
also, we don't want people living in there.
Tearing them up.
Yeah. Because I think there's a few of them that they usually have two or three, one handicap accessible and one regular.
Right.
Or he said sometimes three, depending on the situation, so we'll work that out, but yeah, and we'll obviously decide that come November when we do the budget, and we'll talk further about that as well. Any other business? Oh, sorry, I skipped one. So we've been getting a couple requests in terms of specifics regarding the EZ2 filings and not being filed on time. We had one that we agreed to approve due to a justified reason. Bert went in front of the city council, got that approved after we had blessed it and approved it through our board. We've gotten recently another request, so I'm gonna have Bert speak to the process of what goes into it, and then we're gonna probably table some things in terms of how we wanna approach this moving forward, so I'll just turn it over to Bert.
Thank you, Mike. So just to give you some background, and I don't think as Mike said, I don't think we're trying to make a decision tonight, but we can take the month and maybe when we come back to our next meeting, if you have thoughts. We allow a waiver of noncompliance one time during the term of an incentive for special circumstances where maybe a company, for one reason or another, doesn't file timely, or some other circumstance that maybe I'm not thinking of at the moment. It hasn't happened often in the past. It does seem to be happening more often now for some reason. And just to give you an example, I think the last one we did, you had the investment deduction was approved for a developer that built a building and then held it for a couple of years, ultimately sold it off to another firm who didn't realize the filing. They closed just before the filing deadline. They didn't realize the filing deadline was upon them. So they didn't file timely, reached out to us right afterwards to say, we missed our date, but we'd still like to claim the incentive. I think that's a bit of a special circumstance, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but we want to try and be as customer-centric as we possibly can and be helpful where we can. So in a one-time scenario like that, not opposed to doing so. That being said, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into doing that. State statute's pretty clear on what that process looks like. So we have to prepare the resolution. It has to be approved by this board. It has to, obviously, before it gets to this board, it has to go through legal review, approved by this board, presented to the city council. There's a whole host of steps that have to occur. I think we may want to think about implementing some sort of a fee associated with this moving forward. Or if not a fee, we probably have to think about maybe a different scenario of how we as the board handle it. Right now, I'm doing that with the assistance of the city attorneys. And again, don't mind helping out, but if we're going to be doing multiple ones a year, we probably got to look at a little different way to handle that. And so that's what I kind of want to present to you. Happy to answer questions about the process or anything else you have, but that's what I want to present. I think Mike referenced, we're probably going to have another one of these coming up. Both Mike and I asked for an explanation on the why we're going to, need another waiver. This is a company who hasn't claimed one previously, but obviously they didn't file timely. So I think I don't want to speak for you, but somewhat whether or not we're willing to consider it is going to be determined by the reason why they didn't get their filings in. But in the event that it's deemed an acceptable reason, then we're going to have to go through the process again and, may present itself in the future years as well.
I think the clarity, you said hasn't, they have filed the prior years, but missed this year.
I'm sorry, they have not filed a waiver of non-compliance previously, but they have claimed the incentive. It is a little bit of a double-edged sword if you think about it. So in this scenario, when a company does not complete their filing, of course, they miss out on potential savings that are, could be due to them based on the incentive that they have in place. But then we also miss out on the fee that's associated with that incentive. And so when Mary Ann prepares our budgets, generally speaking, those dollars are included in our budgeting for the future year because, we recognize that the company has additional savings coming. So it is a little bit of a double-edged sword when you think about that. In the event that we don't approve a waiver of noncompliance, company misses out on that savings. Of course, they don't pay the fee that year, and then as long as they still have term available, they're able to appropriately file their EZ2 the following year and then claim the credit for future years as long as they file timely. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Quick question for you. Do they know what the amount is for the future, or they have to wait until the filing year?
They
They have to wait for a tax rate to be established.
Okay.
but they're going to be, mechanically, it's going to be pretty close. Their expectation will be pretty close. It's not going to deviate by huge amounts typically.
Because I guess I was thinking, is there a way to just have them pay the entire time frame of fees out the gate and then thought?
So, it's a good thought. No, the answer is no, that wouldn't be possible, although it would probably be preferable for us too, because it would help with our budgeting, but it wouldn't be because the county auditor's office ultimately certifies things annually, and then the fee is based on that.
And also, for the EZ2, they have a 10-year window. Every year, they can file for the EZ2 for 10 years. In order to keep that going, at the end of 10 years, it drops off. And the only way they can continue filing an EZ2 is if they have a new investment. And some of these companies may be at year 8 or year 9. So it would be interesting.
And you get a very differing experience. Some are large companies with accounting, personnel. Others are mom and pops who use an independent accountant. Some do it themselves. So you've got a wide range of individuals. I think we do a good job of trying to be as trying to act in as much partnership as we possibly can to assist. Mary Ann does a nice job of answering questions. Credit to the county auditor's office because they assist as well and will help us work through the process. But as we, as a group, have grown and these tools have grown, we've probably hit that point where in my maybe 20 years here previously, I think we'd maybe only done waivers of noncompliance twice. And now we're going to have 2 or maybe 3 this year. So maybe, knock on wood, maybe we don't have another one next year or into the future, but it's really hard we probably need to set a standard and an expectation now, as opposed to if we wait and then guess what, we get one next year. It's hard to try and set some protocol or precedent at that point. We need to do it in advance of when those come in. And I think it's probably proper to have a procedural or policy from the board on how we handle that situation. And frankly, that cost should likely go to the entity that has not filed in the appropriate time, regardless of the reason.
Just seems like a crazy process to have to, if they miss it, we have to do a lot of things, right? So.
That's right. And,
Yeah.
and again, for the most part, it's always like there is usually some sort of good explanation, which tells me that we should try and do what we can to help. But not always. Sometimes it's just somebody didn't do their job.
Yeah, and I think to that point, so that's, I guess, sort of, everyone's sort of like, think about it. We'll sort of put our thoughts together and come up with a recommendation for the board, but if anybody has input, please provide that. I think to the point, all of us are volunteer members of this board. Mary Ann's a paid consultant. Otherwise, we are creating work for those who are trying to implement this process for the waiver, as well as attorneys and costs for preparing resolutions. So those things should be passed along. What that fee is, we don't know, but again, there is times, I think there should be a policy in place, to Bert's point, and then we should mandate that. And if we wish to waive it for a extraordinary circumstance like the one he just explained earlier, then we can do that. But at least we'll have something that we can show is sort of rudimentary in terms of how we operate, so.
In addition to legal expenses, there's also, we have to do a legal ad in the newspaper. So we have that. It's not horribly expensive or anything, but there are some expenses.
Right.
We've got to have it recorded, so there's a recording fee associated with that.
Yeah, and obviously, he's going to city council on behalf of some other things and just happens to be there, but he's also doing it on behalf of this board. He's taking his time and effort to put that out too and advocate based on that specific situation. So just a lot of people putting efforts in where, if they're just missing it, oops, and we need to make sure that it's top of mind for the companies who are taking advantage of the incentive. So with that, again, we're not making a decision there, so I'll open it up to any other business. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Scott left us hanging, man. What's up? Motion is second. Anybody opposed? We are adjourned.
Seconded that?
Ryan
Ooh,
did.
Ryan? See, I'm always looking down writing and.